Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. In this episode we'll make some crumpets. They're so quick and easy to make, I don't know why I hesitated for so long. They are the perfect breakfast treat, and you can enjoy them with sweet or savory fillings. Now before you ask where are all the holes in the top, I can tell you that it's totally up to you. If you want more holes on the surface of your crumpets, just make them thinner. I'm the kind of guy to cut my crumpets in half, so I only care about the holes in the middle. So that's why I poured the batter a little bit thicker and I got less holes on the top. Whatever you do, they will taste delicious. And as always, you'll find the full details with all the weights and measurements down in the description box. So first let's see what equipment we need. You need a non-stick pan, ideally, then a bowl to mix your dough in, scales, you'll need a dough scraper, and a whisk, and a bunch of rings. Although if you don't have rings, you could probably make these without them. You could also use some empty tuna cans. Trust me, it works. Now some oven gloves and a jug would come in handy too. Now for the ingredients, you'll need some white flour, some milk, yeast, salt, some baking powder, you'll need some oil for cooking, and a bit of butter for the dough. Now let's get these out of the way and start making our dough. Get your bowl, add the milk. I used cold milk because I wanted my dough to rise slowly. Now add your yeast, your salt, and your baking powder. And now add your butter. Make sure you melt it before you add it. This will make it easier to incorporate into the dough. And grab your whisk and mix it all up. We want to hydrate the yeast and dissolve the sugar. And now add the last ingredient, the flour. Now the next part's going to take a bit of elbow grease. You want to whisk it for around 2 minutes, vigorously. And of course if you have a mixer, by all means use it. It will take around the same amount of time basically. I'm just trying to make this more accessible, because not everyone owns a mixer. Now once the dough is nice and smooth and you're all sweaty, we're ready to ferment. And at the moment it looks a bit of a mess, so I would suggest grabbing a spatula and scraping down the sides, just to collect the dough all in one level. If you leave it on the side of the bowl, it might dry out a bit and you'll end up with crunchy bits in your crumpets, and you don't want that. So just scrape it all down, nice and neat. Then we can cover it up and we'll leave it to ferment. And because I used cold milk, it took me around 1.5 to 2 hours. This batter should visibly puff up. You should see it being full of bubbles and nice and light. As soon as the bubbles start popping on the top, it's ready to go. If you grab the bowl and shake it, it'll have a little wobble about it. And that's what you want. It means it's full of air. Right, for making your life easy, I would suggest pouring this batter into a jug. And make sure you pour it slowly, you don't want to knock out any of the gas. This will make it a lot easier for us to fill the crumpet rings in the pan. Now if your jug is big enough, you could actually pour the batter into the jug before fermentation. My one's just about the right size, so I didn't want to risk it. Don't want it overflowing on me. Right, let's get over to cooking. Now make sure your pan, your oil and your rings are hot before adding the batter. And this is the point where you can control how bubbly the top of your crumpets will be. The thinner the dough, the more bubbles you'll get. But I would strongly suggest not pouring in more than 2.5 centimeters, about an inch. They will puff up during cooking, and if they puff up too high, then they will stick to the rings and we'll end up having a mess. To get an even bottom, you want to turn them whilst cooking. And after about 5 minutes, you can take the rings off. This is when your oven gloves will come in handy. You want to grease the rings before they go into the pan, otherwise your crumpets might stick. And if they do stick, use a knife to release them, but don't scratch your pan. Now after getting all the rings off, you want to keep cooking them for around 5 more minutes. And once the bottom is nice and crispy, flip them over. I used rapeseed oil in the pan, that's why the crumpets became so yellow, but I don't mind that, I like rapeseed oil. You can use whichever oil you prefer. After flipping, cook the crumpets for around 5 more minutes. And then they'll be done. Easy, right? It's almost like a pancake. And one more thing. Remember to pour the dough gently from the jug into the pan. You don't want to deflate it. And as always, if you have any questions or suggestions, drop them down in comments. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I make bread baking videos every Wednesday and Sunday. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.